Alright, so I think we're live. Let's run it again. I tried recording just then, but because of some camera issues, I had to scrap that whole thing. Basically, I'm just going to be reviewing some notes right now. I'm introducing a new video series, which I think will be a hallmark of what I want to build here because it is so valuable and it's so fun for me as well. Like, it's maximal value for myself and decent value for whoever wants to listen to this because the ones who are interested, you might get a lot from it. Basically, the main idea is, again, this is going to be practice, so I'm not going to edit much of this at all. Probably no edits at all, no cuts, and just run with whatever I've got. So I'm going to be documenting my practice once more, showing it real time, so there's a demonstration element to this piece of content. But the thing I want to introduce today is the tribe story time. And I don't know what else to call it yet. That's my placeholder name for now. It's essentially based on the idea that I want to share more of the stories that led to who I am now, that led to the tribe I have today, and the bonds and connections that I've built around me in the last 2-3 years. Because I've got a very stark contrast, a split test, A/B test of not having the brotherhoods and not having those connections beforehand, and now having them through intentional efforts. I did get lucky for sure. I've gotten very lucky with the people I've been around, but there's also, it's like that old quote, I don't remember exactly how it goes, but the harder I work, the luckier I get. And it was so apparent for this kind of development in my life with these relationships. The more work and intention that I put into it, to a disproportionate amount compared to basically every single other person I know, then these lucky breaks in my relationships started happening. These lucky finds and these lucky connections started just forming out of nowhere. So there's a lot of stories that I haven't really shared, and I'll go through my notes, so I'll be reading directly from the computer screen here. I want to go through these key moments of how we got here because I can provide some value for other people and some much needed context, which is what I'm going to talk about here. But also I can document and immortalize some of these incredible defining moments of my own life and my journey with my tribe. This is just for my personal benefit as well. It's fun. I can reminisce on some memories and break down exactly why they've been so meaningful to me and to our trajectory, our growth, and almost not quite laugh at, but have a bit of wonder and humor looking back, because in those moments we didn't know how defining it would become. In some rare instances, I would have something I call hyper-presence, where I'm so present in the moment, but because I'm so present, I suddenly have a realization of how crazy this moment truly is. So other than those rare moments of hyper-presence, all the other times it would just be like the first episode we'll go over, just be some random catch-up or some random chat with one of my friends, with one of the people who would later become one of my closest brothers who I've ever known, who would later become a core tribe member. I never knew in those moments that 2 years, 3 years down the line, we would have the kinds of connection, the kind of bond that I dreamed of for decades. I'm only 25, so, for a decade or two. That's what we're going to be talking about. That's what this tribe story time is about. I want to commemorate and document some of these moments from the past and as they happen in real time. So this is going to be ever growing, and I'll come back to that as well. I wrote here, this will be essentially the history book of our journey and development as a team, as a tribe, for other people's benefit and for my own. So, the main external reason I'm doing this, right? That was essentially the internal reason. The external reason I'm doing this, I realized that I've just been giving lessons to the viewers, to the audience. I've been just spouting information without laying the emotional groundworks for why it matters, without weaving it in through a narrative so that it sticks into people's minds. It's empty facts, right? I tried my best to, deliver it in the most effective way or the most engaging way without bullshit hyper stimulating edits and these dopamine cuts, but I think all of my content so far has been missing that crucial human element, the element of story. I've only got bits and pieces of it, and it's obviously it's a slight limitation of the medium that I've been communicating in, which is like short form content, fucking 90 seconds. Like, how am I supposed to show these long ass stories and all of the nuance and all the considerations and the internal dialogues and conflicts? I can't really show it in 90 seconds. I know some people are really good at it. So I haven't really given the large part of the true value of these stories, of the true value of how I got to learn these lessons and why we should care. So much of the real meaning kind of comes from the change. The real meaning comes from the lived experience. And I wrote here that these are the things that cannot be replicated. This is what's truly mine to share, what's mine to say. Information is fucking abundant these days. We don't lack information. And ChatGPT and all these AI tools are making it even easier to access pure information. But just these bytes of information themselves, these fucking tokens, are meaningless to us unless it is attached to greater context or attached to some kind of emotional significance. And so to me, it's kind of like an NFT, right? This will make sense in a second, but George Mack mentions this idea of a non-fungible human, an NFH, where the people we are most drawn to are the individuals. And the things nowadays, because information is so easy to replicate, because the digital world makes information so accessible as well, the things that are most intriguing and most memorable and most valuable are the non-fungible products, non-fungible information, non-fungible experiences and individuals. And so I've been relaying messages, hopefully in a unique tone, hopefully in as authentic a voice as I can from my own perspective. But I am still, like, the tips themselves, although it has been generated from my own experiences, they aren't as unique and individual and valuable as my actual stories themselves. I know this is a bit of a ramble. Like, I'm trying to figure it out through my head and kind of explore it real time. I often feel too much of a pressure to condense and make precise the information that I want to convey. Which is why I spend so much time scripting and fucking like refining these ideas that I put out online, especially in shorts. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the audience if I have a jumble of ideas. But then obviously this whole series and this whole platform here is for me to practice being okay with being verbose and fucking rambling a little bit. And then I get better at talking in general and organizing my ideas real time, so then I don't do as much of this. So the only way for me to get better at not rambling so much is to ramble as much as I can, and then it will slowly decrease. Fucking, I digress. Let's go back to the main point. Basically, what I've written here, everyone has access to information these days, but the life stories and the exact real moments are the things that might give you a tiny piece of crucial information that you needed. That might give you the tiny boost of inspiration that you needed. It's not just another fucking non-fiction book. It's not just another life hack, another tip. You see 10,000 of these every month on TikTok, on Instagram, whatever it is. It's sharing something real and human that has happened to another person who has been able to distill that experience, not just the information, but the experience itself and the felt sense of it, and then share it in whatever form I can. So today's video is not going to be, I know I said this last time, but today's video is not going to be as valuable. The next one will be, and I'm going to try to record it right after this. But essentially, the main point I'm just trying to make, these stories are where the uniqueness lies. The stories are where the individual lies. My real lived experience is probably the most valuable thing I have left, because information is now a commodity. Information is now in abundance. There's too much noise. We don't need another fucking life hack and another tip. You need a story that you resonate with. You need something that pushes you to actually act or reflect or think about something differently or feel a bit differently. I've been completely missing that, and it's the context of my life which makes these lessons come to life has been completely missing. I wrote here as well because yesterday I had a chat with a fairly new friend who's been an absolute fucking fantastic push in the right direction for me. So shout out to Cooper. You've been a great help. And what I wrote here is these specifics, like tacit knowledge, these specific experiences are not so easily captured, or almost can never be captured in just practical lessons, in non-fiction, in pure dot points. I wrote that a friend reminded me yesterday that the value of things aren't just in what is written, but it is how it is written, that there's something between the lines. And it's such an obvious thing, right? That's why we read fiction. That's why we watch fucking movies and listen to songs and have stories and everything. There's something between the lines. It's not just the words themselves. It's not just the idea itself. It's the context, the feeling, the full dimensions of an experience that gives you the real value that you were looking for. And value in this sense transcends the normal, I guess, corporate pragmatic sense of value, like the productivity bro sense of value, which I've been a huge victim of. And that will probably give you the real transformational moments that you were seeking in the non-fiction, in the dot points. This video is really pissing me off, to be honest, but let's just keep rolling with it. Okay, so a couple of things about the tribe story time and why this is going to be important, because fundamentally, I'm going to tell this story a couple more times. No one really knows this, but I used to be extremely deep into K-pop culture. Right, this is a big turn, but I used to be really deep into K-pop culture. I used to watch all the fucking music videos, all the fucking TV shows, the reality shows, the variety shows. I knew all the idol names, like the conflicts, the group dynamics, whatever it is. I was so deep into that. And obviously part of it was, these are sexy people dancing around, fun music, all of that. But a huge thing that I didn't really tell people about is I was very envious of their culture within groups. I was very envious of their group bonds, their friendships, their camaraderie. So I would watch so many of these fucking variety shows. I was in so deep, and I realized, oh wow, so many of these groups, whether it was real or fake, some of these are just for show, but a lot of these groups are so tight-knit. A lot of these groups of 6-7 guys, or like 5 different girls, or whatever it is, these bands, because they live together, they train together, they fucking cry together, they dance for hours together, they practice everything they've done together, putting their whole lives on the line, grinding for years, sometimes decades, on this one slim chance of this dream that they all have. That, the bond that creates, and in these fairly harsh environments, and with these fucking inhumane, dumbass companies, to be honest, that really pissed me off back then, but these hostile environments, these brutal conditions, one goal, one group, one craft. The bond that they had formed was nothing like I've seen in the modern day, basically. It's truly like brothers and sisters in arms. They would, they'd be eating together, showering together, they'd be practicing together for like 16 hours a day. It was fucking ridiculous. It was basically child labor, right? But when I would watch the TV shows, when I would read what they do and how they interact, I was so envious because I didn't have that. I didn't have my brothers in arms. I didn't even really have a best friend since high school. I had friends who were really close. I had friends who I hung out with every single day. We played games together. We went to each other's house, whatever it is. But I never felt the same alignment. I never felt the same depth of connection. I never felt that they understood all of my struggles. I never felt that I understood all of their struggles. There was always some fairly significant gap missing in the middle. I never felt very connected. And again, something that I haven't really talked about on here that I've told some of my friends is that I actually used to feel lonely as fuck despite having friends. And they weren't even bad people. Like, these were good people. Some of them ended up being part of my core tribe now. But I didn't have that level of connection. And I knew it was out there. I knew it was possible. I just didn't think it was possible for me. So these fucking K-pop groups, right? I'd be watching these things and just every day jealous of what they had. Every day envious of the tribes that they had. I didn't know to use that language before, right? But it would blow my mind. And it would make me very dissatisfied. And I didn't know what to do. And I was too scared to do it as well when I did know what to do. All right, let's move on from there. But basically that was a huge reason why I desired the tribe in the first place. And that's the journey that I'll take you through in this series, in the tribe story time. That's why it's so important. Nobody goes through this much effort to do something without a particular reason that motivated them to do so in the first place. Again, I was talking to that friend yesterday, and he's gone so deep into particular philosophies and religious texts and a lot of different things. He thinks about a lot of stuff, and I noticed and I pointed out to him, what's the thing driving you to dig this deep into this topic? Because there's no fucking chance that some random 22-year-old or however old he was, I think 21, 22, has gone this deep into XYZ. You don't stumble upon that by accident. You don't get to that depth of understanding and depth of commitment by accident. There's something driving you, and in turn you find this significant and useful or important to some extent. Otherwise you won't be this far in. And so the same goes for me, where I wouldn't have dedicated so much of my life to fixing my relationships and my friendships and my connections if I didn't feel such a massive lack in my own life, and if I didn't perceive there to be a possible higher ground. If I didn't... Basically, the pain was so fucking great because the disparity was so big and obvious. How the fuck could I be this far down, and how could these K-pop groups be this high up or this different to my lived experience? These are just Asian dudes too. Why am I stuck down here? So for the longest time, that was my biggest pain point. Having no close friends and having no girls interested in me. That was the primary pain point in my life from high school until probably last year, to be honest. So yeah, this is what this series is going to be about, taking you through that journey and just explaining some of the key moments that made the tribe what it is today. Because there are, again, like I mentioned before, in the moments, it was hard to recognize what was actually happening, what was unfolding before us. But in hindsight, it's so fucking obvious. Like, there were certain chats which absolutely shattered my previous understanding of human connection. There were other books that completely shattered my understanding of vulnerability, of what it means to be a man. There was a certain moment with the whole tribe which broke us through from a surface level into tribe territory, into actual deep connection. It required multiple elements that, like, it's crazy to think about it now. It required so many elements which I couldn't have imagined back then. And I'm leaving it very vague and kind of unsatisfying, but it's because I want to explore them in later episodes, if we want to call it that, and also when I'm articulating a bit better. This is kind of the warm-up round, but you're witnessing me warm up and fire up my brain so that I can record that next one, either right after this or some other day. Basically, tribe story time. This is going to be the most important series I do for a little while before I start doing my full guides and pure educational guides woven in with stories. Because, again, narratives, they're the best way to actually convey information and context, which cannot just be captured in some fucking 3-dot point quick life hack. So I'll wrap it up there. This was a bullshit, rambly ass talk, whatever we want to call it, video. That was 20 minutes, 22 minutes. We'll leave it there. I don't even know if I want to upload this, but it is what it is. It needs to be done. Let's move on to the next one. See you soon. Don't be a little bitch.